Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Up to 15% of couples having trouble conceiving, and this number continues to steadily increase each year. As a result, many couples are turning to their fertility caretakers for advice on how to optimize their fertility. For many couples, finding the right medication could be beneficial for optimal fertility. However, starting medications can be confusing, even scary. And for some people, that's why we are really excited today to chat with Dr. Natasha Stamper. Dr. Stamper is the CEO of Fertility Pharmacist out of Idaho. Dr. Stamper helps women all over the world prepare their bodies for conception and achieve optimal wellness before pregnancy, fertility treatments, and egg freezing. So today we're going to discuss the types of fertility meds, what to consider when choosing medications, anxiety from injections, and so much more. So I saw...
I'm good. How are you,
Thank
Dr.
you so much
Jenna?
for
Thank you
taking
for
the
having
time to
me.
join us. This is a really important topic, and people get very, very confused. So before we start, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a fertility pharmacist.
Yeah, definitely. So I started going to pharmacy school in 2010. I went to Washington State University, and my husband and I got our degrees together, our doctorate degrees, and we decided to go on an adventure, and we moved to a remote Alaskan village called Barfield, Alaska. Yeah, we served the Yupik people there for 7 years, and we lived off the road system. So I definitely learned a lot about life and how to live off the land there. There's no stores, no roads. I mean, there's a grocery store, like a local store, but no like Walmarts or anything. And we were there for, let's see, about 3 years. And we hadn't really talked about starting our family at that time. But we were excited when we found out that we were pregnant. And it was pretty uneventful for a while. And I went to my first ultrasound, and the doctor there, I worked with him. It was pretty tough. He like looked at my husband. He didn't even look at me. And he said, "Well, I hope you didn't tell your family." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's not good. It's not a viable pregnancy." And I didn't even know what to think. With that, I ended up having to have a DNC. That was pretty traumatic for me. My body just wasn't recognizing the situation. And I sometimes I wonder if that's the reason I've had so many problems later on. I don't know. You try to, when you have unexplained infertility, gosh, I'm getting emotional. Sorry. You try to find an answer, and sometimes there isn't an answer. And so I thought I needed to right this wrong, and I went on a mission to have a baby by myself in this village 3,000 miles away from anywhere. From Seattle was where I ended up going. Sorry, my phone keeps beeping. To the fertility clinic there. They don't have fertility clinics in Alaska. And so what transpired was like 5 more miscarriages, 2 ectopics,
Oh
and a
man,
cervical ectopic.
I'm really sorry. Wow.
Yeah, okay. Being in the medical field, you can probably share. That's kind of rare, I'm told. I remember my doctor sat me down and she's like, "You're
You
like
are.
a unicorn, Natasha." And I'm like, "I don't want to be a unicorn." And I actually saved my uterus. She gave me a medication called methotrexate. It unfortunately dissolves pregnancies, but that's how I could save my life at that time. Because a pregnant, maybe you can help me explain this, but a pregnancy in the cervix can't survive. It's a spongy tissue, right? And um, she was an amazing doctor, and but the problem with methotrexate is it takes away our folic acid also. So she had to give me another medication on the opposite days called leucovorin, and that replaced my folic acid. I did that for 10 days. I was in the hospital, and I did blood draws for 3 months, I think. So I survived, my uterus survived, and then I have a happy ending. I went on to do IVF twice. I had lots of problems with lining. My uterine lining is not good. And I was able to get 2 embryos, and then now I have my 2 daughters who are 7 and 3. Yeah. So I'm so lucky and so thankful, and I'm so aware that that doesn't always happen. But yeah, so I that happened, and I just kept working in pharmacy, and I just kept getting questions like, you wouldn't know, you can
Exactly.
probably relate to this, but you start talking about your story and everyone else tells you like, "Oh, I
Yep.
did IVF,
Yep.
but I've never shared that," or "I had a miscarriage. I've never shared that." And I didn't share it for a long time, but I found through counseling and through my husband and I talking that sharing it helped me. And I had a student who was ended up living in a village above my village, and she came forward and because I shared it eventually on Instagram and she or on Facebook, and she said, "I'm living in this village now, working as a pharmacist. Can you tell me how you did this? Because we know my husband, he couldn't have kids or something." And so I helped her. Like I was just like, okay, well, you need to do this, make this appointment, go through this pharmacy. You can't get the medications overnighted because they don't go to the villages. So you have to do it this, send it to all the things that I did. And I just got to thinking, like talking to my husband, like, if I can help my friends and family, why can't I help women all over the world and like make my passion, turn it into something,
Wow.
if that makes sense.
That is really amazing. That's a lot.
Sorry, that's a
Thank you
lot.
so much for sharing. I totally agree that we don't really share that much. I mean, I also started sharing my miscarriages, like kind of similar to you. I was a unicorn and really, really rare conditions happening during pregnancy. For me, it's cushions, and only happens during pregnancy. So after
Oh,
4 late stage miscarriages, I started also sharing. So I think we definitely need more sharing. And also your story makes us also appreciate that, we actually living in the city somewhere you actually have access to IVF and medical care versus, somewhere remote in Alaska that people don't even have access to care, even if they, can't afford it and many other factors. So thank you so much for what you do and, giving women and family this access to information and to even get started.
yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It is hard sometimes to put your face out there in your story, but it does help to make you feel better. And I don't know, in a weird way, it does heal. Maybe you could say if that happened to
Absolutely.
you, but
Do you
it's
think
healed me a little.
understanding that, what a person may be going through make it easier for you to, counsel them throughout the process?
I definitely think so. Yeah. And I've really leaned on like what I learned. I mean, they didn't really have Instagram. I mean, they had Instagram and I started this journey in 2013. It was just different. It wasn't like it is today. And so I didn't have that community. I remember searching on like one of those message boards, baby community. And I found one lady that had my similar story. And I was like messaging her like desperate in the middle of the night, just like, please tell me that you had a positive outcome with this. And she did, and she messaged me back, and that was so impactful for me. So I think just giving someone hope, like I don't think I'm not anyone special. I'm not an Instagram model. I'm just a normal mom working and doing this passion on the side. And honestly, it would be nice if I could do this as my full-time job, but if I don't do that and I never make a dime, like just sharing, my knowledge of medications and my love for my fertility clinic and how I found them and how I made them a good fit for me, then that will be worth it. And that's what I kind of was going to get to is like that's a big question I get, like what questions to ask for, there's so much, and especially like the embryology part, that's huge. And I didn't know you could ask questions. I didn't know you could tour the facility. I know these things now, like 2 rounds later, right? But
So for those
um
who are new to, fertility medicine, are there a lot of medication there? I'm assuming so. And, how can a person know, which fertility meds like might be best for that?
yeah, so everyone's story is different, and honestly there's only like 15 to 20 medications, so it's not huge, but it is huge because what it does is huge, right? The big picture of it. I always encourage people, if it was me, I wouldn't wait. I would go straight to a specialist. I know in the moment that was hard for me to admit, like, okay, I'll try this first and I'll try that first. I mean, I did the warm packs, castor packs on my stomach. I did acupuncture, which I love. I will say do that. I think I might have stood upside down and put a pillow under me and on my head. I would have done anything, right, to have a baby. But and I think local OBGYNs can, help a lot of people too. But I think some people, we might need that extra help, which I did. Pregnancy is dangerous for me, unfortunately. I found this out now, 2 pregnancies later. And I was, yeah, I did tell you the rest. I was medevaced with my second pregnancy at 32 weeks with preeclampsia. And then baby came early. But so that was a whole nother thing. But You and I
Yes,
could talk. No, we
yes,
need to have
yes.
lunch. We have a lot of pregnancy stories.
For sure, for sure.
So maybe we could put another one of these and just talk about pregnancy, because that's another thing I want to start discussing is, our partners, our husbands and our partners, and however our partners come. And also, once you're pregnant after infertility, it, how do I say it nicely? Like, I was scared to death. I didn't enjoy my pregnancy. So it was sad. That's sad for me. I don't have any pictures, but going back to your question, I'd say if you feel it's right for you, definitely go to the specialist. Time is of the essence, right? Most likely. For me, it was with my age.
So everyone should have an honest, educated conversation with their physicians and about these medications, to help those who are, having those conversations. Do factors like, your genetics, health conditions, and other medications can impact which fertility they would be using, or, what kind of questions should they be preparing to ask their physicians?
So, do you mean like if they go to their regular doctor or if they go to the specialist? Is that what? Uh, yeah. So, a hard thing for me to realize is that they are working for us. Like, I never want to put them out. And so I just trusted, and I kind of sat there quiet. But I would encourage everyone to make a full list and talk about that with your partner. I would talk about, genetic testing, your family history. Like, do you have diabetes or hypertension? How will that affect a pregnancy or getting pregnant? Even just as simple as, diet and exercise and lifestyle. So I think those are all great. And then, of course, I would always say, like, leave with a plan. Because for me, if I didn't have a plan, I didn't feel a purpose.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So always, like, try to come up with some sort of plan. And if you can't, take someone with you, because I think in that moment of the appointment, you might be hearing things that are upsetting or you don't know how to digest. And so my husband and I are both pharmacists, and I would look at him as we walked out and say, now, what did she say again? What does this mean? Like, it's hard to understand. So I would take someone with you. I would ask all the questions. Don't be afraid, because you're paying them. And also I would go with a list of anything from, like I said, genetic counseling. I mean, everyone's so different, right? But what is your main concern? And then ask for a plan and a follow-up.
Once people start doing IVF, prepare for, egg retrievals or even egg freezing, a lot of them have to get injections. I know you specialize in helping patients to overcome anxiety of injections. So in your experience, and
Yes.
why do you believe injections are so scary to people?
I think even myself, I think it's that thought of, like, stabbing yourself with something, putting a foreign object in your body, like, that's scary. Even though most of these needles are little tiny, fine little pen needles, and they become smaller as the year. I swear, like, right now, those tiny little, with Ozempic, the little tiny needles. So it's getting smaller and smaller, but the thought of putting that in your body is very scary. I think there's so many emotions with infertility. I think, the pain, the anguish, the excitement, the letdown, and then you're also dealing with, a marriage, a partnership, and maybe other children, because sometimes you can have infertility after you have children. I think it's just all so stressful at times. And I try to tell patients, you spend a good chunk of your money on your medications. So we really need to know how to store them, how to order them, how to inject them, how to organize, how to handle. It's a lot. But we can't control a lot in infertility. So we can control, how we organize our medications, who helps us. I mean, it takes a village. I had my best friend in Seattle from pharmacy school in a park in Seattle injecting me in the backseat of her car while her husband was, like, standing out there, and he goes, I feel like a creep. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but we have to do this at 3:00. Like, it's
Wow. Your feed has some really great tips about making injection easier. Could you share some tidbits with us today?
Yeah, thank you so much. So my big one, it's kind of controversial and people get mad about it, is the ice with progesterone. I've talked to so many women over the last couple of years I've been doing this, and from my own experience. So progesterone is a shot most of us in the infertility world will face one day. And it is, another tip on that one, it's mostly compounded with peanut oil. So if you have any peanut allergies or nut allergies, you definitely want to talk to your provider about that. and look into that. But as it's made in an oil, it's very what we call viscous, so it's very thick. So when you're injecting it, even just drawing it up, it's really, it kind of pushes against you. So you have to draw up just enough air. Like say you want a 1 ml dose, you drop air for 1 ml, you inject that into the vial, and then it's easier to draw out. That's my one big tip. And with ice is good for most injections. Yes, it will numb the area. But with progesterone, it's an IM shot, so it's in the muscle and it's very thick. And so if you warm it up instead of make it cold, it'll like go in smoother, if that makes sense. Less pain. It's like the muscle will actually tighten up if you add the ice and be more painful. I have some patients that like would get a little heating pad and like set their little injection on it beforehand and preheat. I used to preheat in Alaska. We had a big wood stove because it was so cold. So I'd stand up and get my little but you know, and I still got the knots. I don't really know those darn knots on your hiney after you get those shots. They're pretty painful. But yeah, that's my best tip is to use warm and not ice.
Great tips. I think many people just don't even know. So this is like huge.
Yeah. Thank you. I think another, if you don't mind, really quick, I've never used, but a lot of my patients like auto injectors. I'm a heftier person, so it's hard for me to turn and give myself a shot. And the thought of that kind of makes me woozy. So I always had, I mean, I could do a sub-Q, but IM shots, they're pretty intense. I don't know if you want to share your experience, but they do have auto injectors. I don't know if you ever use that. And a lot of my patients
never
like
used
that.
Yeah. You had a great
I didn't either.
about fertility medication suppositories, and you know this it's sort of a new concept for many people. Could you explain what these are? You know, do you have any tips about how to reduce anxiety over using suppositories?
Yeah, so I think as a pharmacist, I learned many years ago that women that we don't like to talk about touching our body or inserting something into our body. It's uncomfortable, and I understand that. I kind of learned that with like counseling on Nuva rings over the years with women, and it's difficult. Like you literally have to like insert something vaginally. So there's that part, and I always tell people, you know, it's messy. It is, of course. We recommend, you know, using like a panty liner, maybe doing it at bedtime, possibly. For, of course, unless your provider says differently. But another thing is they melt very easily, even just by the warmth of your hands. So sometimes they keep them in the fridge, things like that. And always wash your hands, of course, before and after. But I think the thought of just, you know, touching yourself and handling those things in those areas can be sensitive. And it is messy, even just, you know, living your day-to-day life, like exercising or anything like that. So I think if we think about it, we go through a lot with all these treatments. We really do. Sometimes I thought I was poking and prodding every area of my body.
It is a lot. But at least there's help out there. And then I know you're offering one-on-one service to clients. So what does a session with you look like?
So I have a lot of different ways I can work with patients. I like to meet with them and we do like a quick like discovery call to kind of see how we fit together. Some patients, our clients I worked like more supplement heavy, like we just went through their supplements. I would send them a med box, talk about how to remember them. We would go like through a full list, so you can send me your prescription medications and I can go through and make sure nothing interacts, because sometimes we talk to our doctors about our prescription meds, but not always the supplements. So there's that. And then also I can offer help during an actual cycle. So if you're getting ready for IVF and you want like coaching or counseling or just someone to call support for those next 3 months and do a Zoom together once a week, I can do that too. So when I first started this, I was super interested in functional medicine and I thought I wanted to do all this great things. And I do still love that. I just found it was hard for me to work on that certificate at this point. So I thought, you know, my true love is the medications and that's what I know. And that's kind of my hula hoop. So that's where I've landed.
Many years of training as a pharmacist.
Yes. And then so many years, you know, I learned, like I said, living in the bush, like we had to make do with not a lot. And so I've learned to kind of jimmy rig things and find different tips and tricks and ways that, you know, we can make things work. And especially just that distance, that was huge, like navigating that. So I do my best. I also offer counseling, like, and then of course this is all part of it, but on like if you're picking a clinic, what to look for, what to ask, different certifications you can ask from your reproductive endocrinologist. Like mine in Seattle, she has a specialty of embryo placement. Like that's one of her specialties, and egg freezing. And so just little things like that that you could just like dive a little deeper into your clinic and see.
And I know you also have an online virtual academy, so tell us about that.
Yeah. So I I did this last year. I've only ran one group of students. I did online fertility academy, and it was more like healing your hormones. We talk about sleep, we talk about toxins, and that's kind of how I got to know you, was from Hue and Grace. So I talk about Hue and Grace. I love them so much. If anyone doesn't know, Hue and Grace is a hormone safe, well, they're a wellness product. When I started, it was just skincare, but they've gotten so much more exciting things now. So I mean, I just don't think they talk about, this is your wheelhouse, not mine, but hormones safe and toxins as much as they should. And so that's why I just love that product, and I love your page. And so I have coming up, I'm working on Fertility Medication Academy, and that's going to be a course. I haven't decided yet if it'll be like because with my first course, we did an online, I actually had 6 students, which was great. We did an online group. We met weekly in Facebook, and Facebook's hard for some people. So I don't know if I'm going to do that next time. I might just do a course where I demonstrate the medications and teach, and then have help on the side. So that's coming up. And then I've been working on an IVF planner where I made like medication sheets. I made ultrasound sheets, financial trackers. I don't quite have it finished yet because I'm a perfectionist, but there. So I'll be offering that soon for patients.
That's huge. That's amazing.
If they're interested.
Okay, now like since you mentioned the Hue and Grace, what's your go-to Hue and Grace product?
Oh gosh, you're gonna kill me. I don't use the night serum so much. I love the day serum. I could just bathe myself in it. I don't know why. There's something about it. But I use it day, night. I give it away to everyone I know. I love it. And I love the soap. I use it on my kids. Like our whole family, we've completely gotten rid of all hand soap except for Hue and Grace bar soap. What's your favorite product?
And I love it taking it to traveling because it's really small. And my husband and I just share the same product, so which makes it really convenient for traveling.
Yeah, that's what I love. So the body oil, I love it. It can be a beard oil, a hair oil, makeup remover. Like it's so versatile. And my parents, they love the body oil. My dad is a diabetic. He just had his leg amputated about 6 months ago. Yeah, unfortunately, they use that on his leg like religiously. So it's pretty amazing. I'm excited about the new products coming up. I want household and baby shampoo. I'm like, come on.
Sarah and Ben are working very hard on these new products. I'm excited for them. So thank you so much for sharing everything and your story. I'm gonna message you offline. Yes, we're doing it to have a Zoom lunch together.
I would love that. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all you do, because I just asking me to be your guest was such an honor. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
We're gonna have to invite you back, telling us more about your upcoming academy, all the materials that you prepare for people who are going through this. It's a lot. So thank you.
It is. Yeah, thank you. And I'd love to talk. We didn't really get to talk today about supplements, but if you ever want to meet again and do that, that would be great, because my philosophy is we can't always buy the fancy ones. So I like to educate people on, what you get at your Costco or your Walmart.
And thank you everyone for joining. So be sure to follow Dr. Stamper at fertility_pharmacist and book one-on-one. And I will have all the info in the LinkedIn bio and also the posts promoting this Instagram live. So thank you so much.